TV remote button. Double tap and hold to show more controls. Mega Odd TV.
The House will be in order.
Screen recording. Now, screen recording. Screen recording video saved to photos.
The House will be in order.
Cellular. 2 4 bars. Control center. Hearing devices. Headphone level.
The House
Music
will be in
recognition.
order.
Selected. Screen recording. Button. Double tap and hold to show more controls.
The tellers
Screen record.
agree
Cellular.
in their
1 of 4 bars.
tallies
Signal
that
strength.
the total
Status bar.
number of votes
TV remote.
cast
In iCloud.
is
Stream. In Mega Odd TV.
434,
Double tap to.
of which
Mega Odd TV.
the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 203. The Honorable Andy Biggs of the state of Arizona has received 10. The Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 6. The Honorable Jim Banks of the state of Indiana has received 1. The Honorable Lee Zeldin of the state of New York has received 1. The Honorable Byron Donalds of the state of Florida has received 1. No persons having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast by surname, a speaker has not been elected. Following the procedure used by the House in 1923 and recorded in Canons Precedents, Volume 6, Section 24, the clerk is prepared to direct the reading clerk to call a roll anew. For what purpose does the gentleman from Ohio seek recognition?
I rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I think we have 3 objectives this Congress, 3 fundamental things we have to get done in the 118th Congress. First, pass the bills that fix the problems. In 2 years' time, we have a border that is no longer a border. We have a military that can't meet its recruitment goals. We have bad energy policy, bad education policy, record spending, record inflation, record debt, and a government that has been weaponized against we the people, against the very people we represent. So we need to pass legislation to address all that. And I hope my Democrat colleagues will join me. I really do. But I have my doubts. And if they don't, and if Chuck Schumer says, no, we're not going to take up that legislation that we pass, and if Joe Biden won't sign it, so be it. They'll have to answer to the people in 2024. Second, we can never, ever let a bill like the one that passed 12 days ago, $1.7 trillion spent, we can never, ever let that kind of legislation pass again. We have to pass a budget that makes sense, that's good common sense, then do the 12 appropriation bills that recognize it's the people's money, not ours, and send it to the Senate, and then stand firm on that legislation. And again, if they won't take it up and Joe Biden won't sign it, we can stand firm on a CR or something. We can have that fight, but we are not going to have what took place a week and a half ago ever happen again. And then finally, third, and this is important, we got to do the oversight, do the investigations. We have to do the oversight and the investigations that need to be done. This idea that bureaucrats who never put their name on a ballot but think they run the country, who have assaulted our constituents' First Amendment liberties, they need to be held accountable. That has to happen. We need to do it. We need to do it in a way that's consistent with the Constitution, but we need to do it vigorously and aggressively. That is part of our duty as members of this body. To my friends here on this side of the aisle, I would just say this. The differences we may have, the differences between Joyce and Jordan or Biggs and Bacon, they pale in comparison to the differences between us and the left, which now unfortunately controls the other party. So we had better come together and fight for these key things, these 3 things. That's what the people want us to do. And I think Kevin McCarthy is the right guy to lead us. I really do, or I wouldn't be standing up here giving this speech. I came in with Kevin. We came in the same time 16 years ago. We haven't always agreed on everything, but I like his fight. I like his tenacity, and I liked it. I remember Kevin told me, I actually wrote about this in a book. I remember Kevin told me, he said, when the toughest times in life are when you get knocked down, the question is, can you come back? And I've always seen him be able to do that. We need to rally around him, come together, and deal with these 3 things. because this is what the people sent us here to do. My favorite scripture verse is 2 Timothy 4:7. Paul's the old guy giving advice to the young guy, and he says, fight the good fight, finish the course, keep the faith. I like the verse because it's a verse of action. Fight, finish, keep. Not wimpy words, words that I think fit America. That's what the American people want us to do. They want us to fight for the things they care about and they elected us to do. And we should all remember, only about 12,000 people have ever had the opportunity to do what we're doing today, sit in this body, serve in this Congress. It is a privilege. It is an opportunity. We owe it to them, the American people, the good people of this great country, to step forward, to come together, get a speaker elected so we can address these three things. I hope you'll vote for Kevin McCarthy, and that's why I'm proud to nominate him for Speaker of the House.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're witnessing history here today. For half of that, I wasn't quite sure who the gentleman from Ohio was nominating. He was nominating himself. And
is the gentleman rising to place a name in nomination?
I am, Madam Clerk. I am. I'd just like to be afforded the same opportunity that the gentleman from Ohio took, Madam Clerk. Consider all that's happened. The last time an election for Speaker went to a second ballot, Leader Jeffries' beloved New York Yankees had not yet won a World Series. Consider all that's happened since then. The work that the body has entertained, the work that we've done for the people over that time. We are unified behind a Speaker who will continue that progress despite the chaos on the other side, Madam Clerk. We are going to stay here to get this done. We are unified, and we are all going to support Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker, the lead vote getter in the last ballot. Madam Clerk, as chair of the Democratic Caucus, I'm directed by the vote of the caucus to present for election to the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 118th Congress the name of the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, the representative-elect for the state of New York, once again, and we will be unified once again in our support for him.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida rise?
To nominate a candidate for Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized.
Well, sometimes we have to do jobs that we don't really want to do. And sometimes we have to do jobs that we are called to do. And so, my colleagues, I rise to nominate the most talented, hardest working member of the Republican Conference who just gave a speech with more vision than we have ever heard from the alternative. I'm nominating Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is humble, perhaps today, humble to a fault. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who wants it so bad. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who has sold shares of themselves for more than a decade to get it. Maybe Jim Jordan is the right person for Speaker of the House because he is not beholden to the lobbyists and special interests who have corrupted this place and corrupted this nation under the leadership of both Republicans and Democrats. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person for Speaker of the House because he wouldn't fight us when we try to get a term limits bill on the floor. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person because he wouldn't fight us when we try to put a balanced budget on the floor and vote for it. And maybe Jim Jordan is the right person because he would endorse the plan that was built by the Texas delegation to finally secure our border. Mr. Jordan said in his nomination that there are certain bills that we have to pass to fix the problem. The challenge is the alternative has been someone voting for the very bills that have caused these problems. Mr. Jordan says that we cannot accept legislation like the omnibus, and I fully agree. And if Jim Jordan were Speaker of the House, if he were the leader of the Republican team, we wouldn't have that circumstance choking the economy of our country, increasing inflation, and diminishing the prospects of a better life for our fellow Americans. And finally, Mr. Jordan said we must engage in rigorous oversight. Every one of my Republican colleagues knows that the person who can lead that oversight effort, who works on it every day, who has the skill and the talent and the will, is Jim Jordan. I'm nominating him, and I'm voting for him.
The reading clerk will call the roll.
Sure. That wasn't on an existential.
Adams. Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amodei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Vallant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Bedagan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. McCarthy. Beatty.
For the second time, I proudly cast a historic vote for Hakeem
Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Byer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Jordan. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Jordan. Blumenauer. Jeffries. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Jordan. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bast. McCarthy. Bowman. Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Rakeen. Jordan. Brown. Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Ushan. McCarthy. Budzinski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burleson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamick. McCarthy. Caraballo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas.
I vote for the first speaker of color of the United States House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson.
Hakeem Sekou Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Carter of Louisiana.
Carter of Louisiana votes Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez DeRemer. McCarthy. Shirphyllis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Siscomani. McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. Jordan. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Jordan. Cohen. Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa. Jeffries. Costa. Costa. Courtney. Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries. Crane. Jordan. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw. McCarthy. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois.
Davis of Illinois.
Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. De La Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. DeLauro. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingle. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. McCarthy. Duarte. McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elsie. McCarthy. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshu. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezel. McCarthy. Fallon. McCarthy. Feenstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy. Finstad. McCarthy. Fishbach. McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick. McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher. Jeffries. Flood. McCarthy. Foster. Jeffries. Fushi. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates.
Jim Jordan.
Jordan. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Gallego. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries. Gomez. Jeffries. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Good of Virginia.
Jim Jordan.
Jordan. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Jordan. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas.
Enslaved people who never had the right to vote. I promise you.
Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy. Guthrie. McCarthy. Hageman. McCarthy. Harder of California.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Harris. Jordan. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Hinson. McCarthy. Horsford.
For the people, for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga. McCarthy. Hunt. McCarthy. Isa. McCarthy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois.
Illinois First District proudly supports Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas. McCarthy. Jackson Lee.
John Lewis, Barbara Gordon, and Elijah Cummings. I proudly stand to vote for Speaker Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia. Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kamlager Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Khanna. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Kylie McCarthy. Kilmer Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLota. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler. Lawler. McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Jordan. Latrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCullum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarvey. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks. Jeffries. Menendez. Jeffries. Mang. Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Jordan. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills. McCarthy. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Moskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Nagoose. Jeffries. Nails. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Jordan. Nunn of Iowa. McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Ogles.
Gentleman from Ohio, Jim Jordan.
Jordan. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquale. Jeffries. Payne. Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. Jordan. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose. McCarthy. Rosendale. Jordan. Stanton. Jeffries. Sorry. How was that? Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. Jordan. Ruiz. Jeffries. Rupersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Schneider. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Schweikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. Jordan. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. Smith of Nebraska. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparks. McCarthy. Stansbury. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stauber. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland.
My unwavering vote of confidence goes to Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Jeffries. Talib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trone. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew. McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden. McCarthy. Vargas. Jeffries. Vasquez.
New Mexico for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. VC. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg. McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. Webster of Florida. Wenstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yacom. McCarthy. Zinke. McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the representatives-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Costa. Jeffries. DeLauro. Jeffries. Gallego. Jeffries. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy.
Republican leader Kevin McCarthy appears to have lost his second bid for Speaker in the second ballot happening on the House floor. The 19 Republicans who voted against him in the first ballot have done so again. In the first round of voting, they split their vote. In the second round of voting, all 19 voted for Jim Jordan to be Speaker, despite the Ohio Republican giving the nominating speech asking Republicans to vote for Kevin McCarthy. The tally showing that Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader from New York, has more votes than Kevin McCarthy, but he does not have the majority of the votes of those voting today. So we will wait for the clerk to call the official count. But as we said, it appears we are headed toward a third round of ballots for Speaker of the House. Once again, if you're just joining us for our live coverage here on C-SPAN of the House floor, the second ballot for Speaker it has not produced a Speaker. The 19 Republicans who voted against Kevin McCarthy, the first ballot, have done so again. Robert Costa, who reports for CBS News, saying that Congressman Jim Costa, no relation to him, a Blue Dog Democrat, tells CBS News that if the GOP doesn't get it together, the rank and file on the Republican side should consider a coalition government in the House. Costa says he has spoken to Fred Upton, a Republican, Frank Lucas, another Republican, about the idea if it got there. Now, Reed Epstein tweeting out that the RNC chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, on Fox News earlier today about these rounds of votes for Speaker, quote, "This Republican on Republican infighting is only hurting one thing, our party." Happening on the floor now on the first day of the 118th Congress, the former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, talking with the new Democratic leadership team. Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar circled on the House floor as they wait for the clerk to announce the official tally of the second round of voting for Speaker. The Republicans have the majority. Kevin McCarthy, their leader, has not secured the votes to become Speaker yet. Of the 19 that voted against him in the first round, all 19 rejected him again in the second round. One of them was Congressman Bob Good of Virginia, tweeting out, Kevin McCarthy is only willing to compromise when his position of personal power is at stake. America deserves a leader in the House who is wholly dedicated to preserving the nation. Then you have Congressman Don Bacon, Republican of Nebraska, who says he will continue to vote for Kevin McCarthy, saying we have pressing work to do for Americans, including fixing the economy, growing energy independence, and securing the border. The far majority of conference supports McCarthy, but a few are holding us hostage. Despite having the majority, Republicans appear to be at a stalemate over who should serve as their speaker in the 118th Congress. After 2 rounds of ballots, Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, has not secured enough votes. He has the majority of Republican votes, but he does not have, after 2 rounds, the majority of those voting in the chamber. The magic number is 218, and he does not have that. 19 Republicans voted against him in the first 2 rounds of voting. Manu Raju of CNN tweeting, conservatives will vote for Jim Jordan on the 3rd ballot too, according to Virginia Congressman Bob Good, who has been one of those 19. He told me he expects Jordan's support to grow. Here's a quote, and I think we're going to see his numbers grow. He said the fact that Jordan doesn't want the gavel is, quote, exactly why they want him. Then you have Elena Treen of Axios saying she just asked Congressman Clyburn, a Democrat, South Carolina, if he foresees any kind of situation where Democrats may end up leaving the chamber and it lowers the threshold for McCarthy. Quote, no, I don't think so, no. Live coverage here on C-SPAN as the House continues to hold this vote for Speaker. We're waiting for the clerk to call the official tally of the 2nd round of voting. While we continue to wait for the official tally of the second round of voting for Speaker of the House, an update for you on what's happening off the floor. Elena Treen of Axios reporting that Ralph Norman, a Republican of Oklahoma, one of the original 5 who said they would never vote for Kevin McCarthy, tells her that he and the other anti-McCarthy Republicans are going to hold firm, and said he's gotten commitments from others that make him believe the opposition will grow. He anticipates, quote, a move to adjourn at some point, but says, quote, we don't want to do that. He also told Elena Treen of Axios there's no magic about getting it done today. Heather Cagle reporting also that Steve Scalise, the number 2, the second in command for Republicans, emerges from the majority leader's office saying, quote, everybody knew that this would be going on and we're going to work through it. Again, we're waiting to see what happens after the official tally is called for this second vote. We expect there would be a third round of voting. Live coverage here on C-SPAN. You're watching C-SPAN's live coverage of the vote for Speaker. They have just finished their second round of ballots, and we're expecting a third round of voting to begin. Sahil Kapoor of NBC reporting. House Democratic Whip Catherine Clark's office tells lawmakers another vote is expected soon and to stay close. Quote, please remain near the floor. The reason? Democratic absences equals lower threshold equals potentially easier for McCarthy to get elected Speaker. Chip Roy, one of the members, one of those 19 Republicans who have rejected Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. He was on Fox News saying, we're not going to back down until we get in a room and we decide how we'll be able to stand up and fight for the American people, no matter who the Speaker is. I'm not blinking, he tells the network. And Representative Andy Biggs, one of the leaders of the so-called anti-McCarthy movement, tweeting out that Kevin McCarthy has lost 2 ballots already. It's time to move on. Continuing watching here on C-SPAN on our website, cspan.org, and you can also follow along with our mobile app, C-SPAN Now. It has been 100 years since the House voted in multiple ballots for Speaker of the House. We just finished here on the House floor the second round of voting. It appears the U.S. House is headed for a third round of voting for Speaker. There have been 14 times where it took more than 2 ballots for a nominee to become Speaker. 13 of those instances occurred before the Civil War. The longest Speaker election on record lasted 2 months between December 1855 and February 1856. Lawmakers had to cast 133 ballots before finally electing a Speaker. The last time a Speaker election lasted multiple ballots was in 1923, as we said, 100 years ago, when it took 9 ballots to elect a Speaker. We are headed toward the third round. Caitlin Collins of CNN tweeting out a quote from Dave Joyce, who is a supporter of Kevin McCarthy, telling CNN, "We are going to continue to vote until Kevin's the next speaker." Just saw Kevin McCarthy, the leader of the Republicans in the House, on the floor after the second round of ballots did not produce enough votes for him to become Speaker. We are approaching the fourth hour of this new 118th Congress, and the House has not gotten past the vote for Speaker. They had an agenda that they wanted to get to today after voting for the Speaker, which was swearing in the newly elected members of Congress, the debating and voting on a rules package for this next Congress, the next 2 years. And they also plan to consider a piece of legislation, a bill to rescind funding for 87,000 new IRS agents that was allocated in the Inflation Reduction Act. They have yet to get to that part of their agenda today. It looks like they're headed for a third round of voting for Speaker. Scott MacFarlane, who reports for CBS, has a quote here from Kevin McCarthy, the leader, telling reporters, "We're unified. This isn't about me. This is about the conference now because the members who are holding out, it is what they want, something for their personal selves." We'll keep coverage going here on C-SPAN. You can also watch on our website, cspan.org, or on our free mobile app, C-SPAN Now.
Will the House be in order? The tellers agree in their tallies that the total number of votes cast is 434, of which the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of the state of New York has received 212. The Honorable Kevin McCarthy of the state of California has received 203. The Honorable Jim Jordan of the state of Ohio has received 19. No person having received the majority of the whole number of votes cast by surname, a speaker has not been elected. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Kevin McCarthy for the position of Speaker of the House.
The gentleman is recognized. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We all came here to get things done, to get big things done, to solve the problems. And I hope when we get through today that all of the members on both sides of the aisle will join together with us to solve the problems, to address inflation that is crushing middle-class families, to get control over spending that's driving that inflation, Madam Clerk.
Yield? Will the House be in order?
And we all know what those problems are. We've been talking about them for a long time. We've been proposing legislation for a long time. In fact, it was Kevin McCarthy who put together task forces over a year ago to get members engaged in the process of not just talking about what we don't like, not just talking about what the problems are. We know what those problems are. But how do you fix those problems? And so we started rolling those bills out. We've attempted to bring bills on this floor to address inflation, to lower the cost of goods when families go to the grocery store and they can't even buy all the food they need for their families if they can find that food on their shelf. But those bills were rejected. If a family has trouble putting gas in the tank to make it to the grocery store, because we've got such horrible energy policies under what President Biden's done to shut down American energy, that families can't even afford to put gas in their tanks. And so we brought legislation to the floor to lower the cost of gasoline. And you know what? Those bills were rejected by the previous majority. And I use that term for a reason, previous majority, because we want a majority talking about fixing those problems. But we can't start fixing those problems until we elect Kevin McCarthy as our next speaker. And so what have we laid out? We've got bills just this week to start addressing some of those problems, to start addressing our energy insecurity that's been created when President Biden shut down American energy. There is absolutely no reason that we need to rely on foreign countries to produce our energy. We could produce it all here, cleaner, better, more efficient, and create American jobs in the process. Let's get those bills to this floor. How long have we been highlighting this open southern border? That's not just brought millions of people across our border. Kevin McCarthy's led delegations down to the border to show what the problem is. We know what the problem is. This president refuses to even admit the problem. It's kind of hard for the president to solve a problem when he doesn't even admit it's a problem. Yet let's talk about the numbers. Over 2 million people have come across our border illegally just last year. That's more than the entire state of New Mexico have come into our country illegal, and this president won't even admit it's a problem. Last year alone, we lost over 100,000 young people to deaths from drugs like fentanyl because we have an open southern border. Everybody should be appalled by that stat. The fact that more than 100 of our youngest, best and brightest kids are dead in America because of the fentanyl coming across of our open southern border. These are drugs made in China coming across our southern border and brought into every community in America. And it should stop. It has to stop, but it won't stop until either the president takes action, which he won't, or we pass legislation on the floor to fix those problems. But that doesn't start until we elect Kevin McCarthy as our Speaker. We know what the challenges are. We've laid out solutions to these problems. It's sad to say these aren't problems that are very hard to fix because we weren't in this situation just a few years ago. But if the administration doesn't want to fix these problems, people call on us to do that. And it starts here in the people's house. Let's rise to this challenge. Let's meet the challenges that the American people sent all of us, not just the Republicans, not just the Democrats, but all 434, soon to be 435 of us. We can meet those challenges, but let's start by electing Kevin McCarthy as our next Speaker. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise?
Madam Clerk, I rise to nominate Hakeem Jeffries. For unity in
The gentleman
Congress.
has been recognized.
For unity in Congress and progress in our country, Democrats are united behind Hakeem Jeffries. I recommend Hakeem Jeffries as our Speaker. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
He's not seeking, like he's seeking recognition, so let's just say the clerk is prepared to call the roll.
The reading clerk is prepared to call the roll.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Seek to place a name in a nomination, Speaker.
The gentleman is recognized.
So this is what the chamber looks like when we're actually debating and the bodies are in the chairs. How many times have we been down here giving speeches and there's not a soul in the chamber? Yet this is what it takes to get 435 people in the chamber and have an actual debate. The American people are watching, and that's a good thing. What we're doing is exercising our rights to vote and have a debate and have a discussion about the future of this country through the decision of choosing a speaker. This is not personal.
Allow this device to
It's
access
not.
photos and videos.
This is about the future of the country. This is about the direction
Don't
of the
allow.
country. American
Allow.
people who are looking at this body and wondering
Mega
why
IPTV.
we can pass $1.7 trillion bills that are unpaid for. They can just slide in $45 billion for Ukraine but not pay for it. $40 billion for emergency spending and not pay for it. 10% increase in defense spending, 6% increase in non-defense spending and not pay for it. And not do a thing except put language in a bill that prohibits our ability to use the money to secure the border. That bill gets rammed through, and we know exactly how it gets rammed through, because the defense world and the non-defense world come together and say, you know what? We're going to cut a deal, and we'll all go to the mics, and we'll all go give speeches, and the American people are the big losers. That's what happens. We know that's what happens. The Rules Committee sits up there and passes a bill, sends it to the floor, and we have no debate on the floor of this body. We haven't been able to offer an amendment on the floor of this body since May of 2016. The former leader and I have discussed this right here. That's true. But the fact is, this place has to change. It has to change. And the change comes by either adopting rules and procedures that will make us actually do our job, or it comes from leadership. And people ask me, what do you want? I want the tools, or I want the leadership to stop the swamp from running over the average American every single day. We can't keep doing this. I'm going to sit here until we figure out how to stop spending money we don't have. I don't want any more empty promises. I don't want any more, oh, don't worry, trust us, we'll do it. I want to know that we're going to be able to exercise our rights as a member of this body to stand up for the American people and actually fix this country. And it's not going to happen when we use our men and women in uniform in defense and wrap ourselves around that and then spend more money that we don't have, weakening that defense, weakening our country in the process. But that's what we just did. Ladies and gentlemen, I am asking for us to come together and figure out how to solve these problems. And to do that, I'm going to do what I did my very first act as a member of Congress, or as a congressman-elect, and nominate Jim Jordan for Speaker. Now, Jim has said he doesn't want that nomination, and Jim has been down here nominating Kevin, and I respect that. And again, I have no personal animus towards Kevin. And I've worked for the last 2 months to try to figure out how to get the rules to make this place better, and we've made progress. But we do not have the tools or the leadership yet to stop the swamp for rolling over the American people. Jim has been doing it. He has a track record of doing it. And for those reasons, I am nominating Jim Jordan from Ohio for Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The reading clerk will call the roll. Adams. Adams. Jeffries. Adderholt. McCarthy. Aguilar. Jeffries. Alford. McCarthy. Allen. McCarthy. Allred. Jeffries. Amadei. McCarthy. Armstrong. McCarthy. Arrington. McCarthy. Auchincloss. Jeffries. Babin. McCarthy. Bacon. McCarthy. Baird. McCarthy. Balderson. McCarthy. Ballant. Jeffries. Banks. McCarthy. Barr. McCarthy. Berrigan. Jeffries. Bean of Florida. McCarthy. Beatty.
For the third time, I'm proud to cast my historic vote for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Bentz. McCarthy. Barra. Jeffries. Bergman. McCarthy. Byer. Jeffries. Bice. McCarthy. Biggs. Jordan. Bilirakis. McCarthy. Bishop of Georgia. Jeffries. Bishop of North Carolina. Jordan. Blumenauer. Blumenauer. Blunt Rochester. Jeffries. Boebert. Jordan. Bonamici. Jeffries. Bost. McCarthy. Bowman.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Boyle of Pennsylvania.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Burkeen. Jordan. Brown.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Brownlee. Jeffries. Buchanan. McCarthy. Buck. McCarthy. Bouchon. McCarthy. Bazinski. Jeffries. Burchett. McCarthy. Burgess. McCarthy. Burlinson. McCarthy. Bush. Jeffries. Calvert. McCarthy. Kamek. McCarthy. Caraveo. Jeffries. Carbajal. Carbajal. Jeffries. Cardenas. Jeffries. Carey. McCarthy. Carl. McCarthy. Carson. Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. Carter of Georgia. Carter of Louisiana.
Carter of Louisiana proudly votes for Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Carter of Texas. McCarthy. Cartwright.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Kassar. Jeffries. Case. Jeffries. Caston. Jeffries. Castor of Florida. Jeffries. Castro of Texas. Jeffries. Chavez de Reamer. McCarthy. Sherfilis McCormick. Jeffries. Chu. Jeffries. Cicilline. Jeffries. Ciscobani. McCarthy. Clark of Massachusetts. Jeffries. Clark of New York. Jeffries. Cleaver. Jeffries. Klein. McCarthy. Cloud. Jordan. Clyburn. Jeffries. Clyde. Jordan. Cohen.
Not Jackie Robinson, but Brooklyn's 21st century star, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Cole. McCarthy. Collins. McCarthy. Comer. McCarthy. Connolly. Jeffries. Correa.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Costa.
Jeffries of New York.
Jeffries. Courtney.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Craig. Jeffries.
Crane. Jordan. Crawford. McCarthy. Crenshaw. McCarthy. Crockett. Jeffries. Crow. Jeffries. Cuellar. Jeffries. Curtis. McCarthy. Davids of Kansas. Davids of Kansas. Jeffries. Davidson. McCarthy. Davis of Illinois. Jeffries. Davis of North Carolina. Jeffries. Dean of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. DeGette. Jeffries. Dela Cruz. McCarthy. DeLauro. Jeffries. Del Bene. Jeffries. DeLuzio. Jeffries. DeSaulnier. Jeffries. Desjardins. McCarthy. D'Esposito. McCarthy. Diaz-Balart. McCarthy. Dingell. Jeffries. Doggett. Jeffries. Donalds. Jordan. Duarte. McCarthy. Duncan. McCarthy. Dunn of Florida. McCarthy. Edwards. McCarthy. Elsie. McCarthy. Emmer. McCarthy. Escobar. Jeffries. Eshoo. Jeffries. Espaillat. Jeffries. Estes. McCarthy. Evans. Jeffries. Ezell. McCarthy. Fallon. McCarthy. Finstra. McCarthy. Ferguson. McCarthy. Finstad. McCarthy. Fishbach. McCarthy. Fitzgerald. McCarthy. Fitzpatrick. McCarthy. Fleischman. McCarthy. Fletcher.
Screen recording in Mega IPTV.
Jeffries.
History Vault.
Flood.
Mega IPTV. Double.
McCarthy.
Mega IPTV.
Foster. Jeffries. Fauci. Jeffries. Fox. McCarthy. Lois Frankel. Jeffries. C. Scott Franklin. McCarthy. Frost. Jeffries. Fry. McCarthy. Fulcher. McCarthy. Gates. Jordan. Gallagher. McCarthy. Gallego. Jeffries. Garamendi. Jeffries. Garbarino. McCarthy. Mike Garcia. McCarthy. Robert Garcia. Jeffries. Garcia of Illinois. Jeffries. Garcia of Texas. Jeffries. Jimenez. McCarthy. Golden of Maine. Jeffries. Goldman of New York. Jeffries.
Alert. Allow this device to access photos and videos. This device allow.
Gomez.
Mega IPTV.
Gomez. Tony Gonzalez. McCarthy. Vicente Gonzalez. Jeffries. Good of Virginia. Jordan. Gooden of Texas. McCarthy. Gosar. Jordan. Gottheimer. Jeffries. Granger. McCarthy. Graves of Louisiana. McCarthy. Graves of Missouri. McCarthy. Green of Tennessee. McCarthy. Green of Texas. Jeffries. Green of Georgia. McCarthy. Griffith. McCarthy. Grijalva. Jeffries. Grothman. McCarthy. Guest. McCarthy.
Alert. Allow this device to access
Guthrie.
photos and videos.
McCarthy. Hageman.
This allow this device. Allow.
McCarthy.
Mega IPTV.
Harder of California. Jeffries. Harris. Jordan. Harshbarger. McCarthy. Hayes. Jeffries. Hearn. McCarthy. Higgins of Louisiana. McCarthy. Higgins of New York. Jeffries. Hill. McCarthy. Himes. Jeffries. Henson. McCarthy. Horsford.
United for Jeffries.
Jeffries. Houchin. McCarthy. Houlihan. Jeffries. Hoyer. Jeffries. Hoyle of Oregon. Jeffries. Hudson. McCarthy. Huffman. Jeffries. Huizinga.
Because I'm interested in governing Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Hunt.
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Issa.
Incoming chairman of judiciary, Jim Jordan, in supporting Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Ivy. Jeffries. Jackson of Illinois. Jeffries. Jackson of North Carolina. Jeffries. Jackson of Texas. McCarthy. Jackson Lee. Jeffries. Jacobs. Jeffries. James. McCarthy. Jayapal. Jeffries. 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 Johnson of Georgia.
Without frustration, Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Johnson of Louisiana. McCarthy. Johnson of Ohio. McCarthy. Johnson of South Dakota. McCarthy. Jordan. McCarthy. Joyce of Ohio. McCarthy. Joyce of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Camlogger Dove. Jeffries. Captor. Jeffries. Kane of New Jersey. McCarthy. Keating. Jeffries. Kelly of Illinois. Jeffries. Kelly of Mississippi. McCarthy. Kelly of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Kana. Jeffries. Kiggins of Virginia. Kiggins of Virginia. McCarthy. Kildee. Jeffries. Kiley. McCarthy. Kilmer. Jeffries. Kim of California. McCarthy. Kim of New Jersey. Jeffries. Krishnamurthy. Jeffries. Custer. Jeffries. Kustoff. McCarthy. LaHood. McCarthy. LaLoida. McCarthy. LaMalfa. McCarthy. Lamborn. McCarthy. Landsman. Jeffries. Langworthy. McCarthy. Larson of Washington. Jeffries. Larson of Connecticut. Jeffries. Latta. McCarthy. LaTurner. McCarthy. Lawler.
The Honorable Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy. Lee of California. Jeffries. Lee of Florida. McCarthy. Lee of Nevada. Jeffries. Lee of Pennsylvania. Jeffries. Ledger Fernandez. Jeffries. Lesko. McCarthy. Letlow. McCarthy. Levin. Jeffries. Liu. Jeffries. Lofgren. Jeffries. Loudermilk. McCarthy. Lucas. McCarthy. Lukemeyer. McCarthy. Luna. Jordan. Luttrell. McCarthy. Lynch. Jeffries. Mace. McCarthy. Magaziner. Jeffries. Maliotakis. McCarthy. Mann. McCarthy. Manning. Jeffries. Massey. McCarthy. Mast. McCarthy. Matsui. Jeffries. McBath. Jeffries. McCarthy. McCarthy. McCall. McCarthy. McLean. McCarthy. McClintock. McCarthy. McCollum. Jeffries. McCormick. McCarthy. McGarty. Jeffries. McGovern. Jeffries. McHenry. McCarthy. Meeks.
Only Jeffries.
Jeffries. Menendez.
Jeffries.
Jeffries. Mean. Jeffries. Muser. McCarthy. Mfume. Jeffries. Miller of Illinois. Jordan. Miller of Ohio. McCarthy. Miller of West Virginia. McCarthy. Miller Meeks. McCarthy. Mills. McCarthy. Molinaro. McCarthy. Molinar. McCarthy. Mooney. McCarthy. Moore of Alabama. McCarthy. Moore of Utah. McCarthy. Moore of Wisconsin. Jeffries. Moran. McCarthy. Morelli. Jeffries. Muskowitz. Jeffries. Moulton. Jeffries. Mervan. Jeffries. Mullen. Jeffries. Murphy. McCarthy. Nadler. Jeffries. Napolitano. Jeffries. Neal. Jeffries. Neguse. Jeffries. Nels. McCarthy. Newhouse. McCarthy. Nickel. Jeffries. Norcross. Jeffries. Norman. Jordan. None of Iowa. McCarthy. Obernolte. McCarthy. Ocasio-Cortez. Ocasio-Cortez. Ogles. Jordan. Omar. Omar. Jeffries. Owens. McCarthy. Pallone. Jeffries. Palmer. McCarthy. Panetta. Jeffries. Pappas. Jeffries. Pasquarel. Jeffries. Payne. Jeffries. Pelosi. Jeffries. Peltola. Jeffries. Pence. McCarthy. Perez. Jeffries. Perry. Jordan. Peters. Jeffries. Pedersen. Jeffries. Pfluger. McCarthy. Phillips. Jeffries. Pingree. Jeffries. Pocan. Jeffries. Porter. Jeffries. Posey. McCarthy. Presley. Jeffries. Quigley. Jeffries. Ramirez. Jeffries. Raskin. Jeffries. Reschenthaler. McCarthy. Rogers of Washington. McCarthy. Rogers of Alabama. McCarthy. Rogers of Kentucky. McCarthy. Rose. McCarthy. Rosendale. Jordan. Ross. Jeffries. Rouser. McCarthy. Roy. Jordan. Ruiz. Jeffries. Ruppersberger. Jeffries. Rutherford. Rutherford. McCarthy. Ryan. Jeffries. Salazar. McCarthy. Salinas. Jeffries. Sanchez. Jeffries. Santos. McCarthy. Sarbanes. Jeffries. Scalise. McCarthy. Scanlon. Jeffries. Schakowsky. Jeffries. Schiff. Jeffries. Snyder. Jeffries. Skolton. Jeffries. Schreier. Jeffries. Swikert. McCarthy. Austin Scott. McCarthy. David Scott. Jeffries. Scott of Virginia. Jeffries. Self. Jordan. Sessions. McCarthy. Sewell. Jeffries. Sherman. Jeffries. Sherrill. Jeffries. Simpson. McCarthy. Slotkin. Jeffries. Smith of Missouri. McCarthy. Smith of Nebraska. McCarthy. Smith of New Jersey. McCarthy. Smith of Washington. Jeffries. Smucker. McCarthy. Sorensen. Jeffries. Soto. Jeffries. Spanberger. Jeffries. Sparts. McCarthy. Stansberry. Jeffries. Stanton. Jeffries. Stallberg. McCarthy. Steele. McCarthy. Stefanik. McCarthy. Style. McCarthy. Stubbe. McCarthy. Stevens. Jeffries. Stewart. McCarthy. Strickland.
With certainty and without drama, I will represent Jeffries for the third time.
Jeffries. Strong. McCarthy. Swalwell. Jeffries. Sykes. Jeffries. Takano. Jeffries. Tenney. McCarthy. Tanadar. Jeffries. Thompson of California. Jeffries. Thompson of Mississippi. Thompson of Mississippi. Jeffries. Thompson of Pennsylvania. McCarthy. Tiffany. McCarthy. Timmons. McCarthy. Titus. Titus. Tlaib. Jeffries. Takuda. Jeffries. Tonko. Jeffries. Torres of California. Jeffries. Torres of New York. Jeffries. Trahan. Jeffries. Trim. Jeffries. Turner. McCarthy. Underwood. Jeffries. Valadeo. McCarthy. Van Drew. McCarthy. Van Dyne. McCarthy. Van Orden. McCarthy. Vargas. Jeffries. Vasquez. Jeffries. Vesey. Jeffries. Velasquez. Jeffries. Wagner. McCarthy. Wahlberg. McCarthy. Waltz. McCarthy. Wasserman Schultz. Jeffries. Waters. Jeffries. Watson Coleman. Jeffries. Weber of Texas. McCarthy. Webster of Florida. McCarthy. Winstrup. McCarthy. Westerman. McCarthy. Wexton. Jeffries. Wild. Jeffries. Williams of Georgia. Jeffries. Williams of New York. McCarthy. Williams of Texas. McCarthy. Wilson of Florida. Jeffries. Wilson of South Carolina. McCarthy. Whitman. McCarthy. Womack. McCarthy. Yacom. McCarthy. Zinke. McCarthy.
The reading clerk will now call the names of the representatives-elect who did not answer the first call of the roll.
Blumenauer. Jeffries. Yeah, you have to page Jeffries. Carter of Georgia. McCarthy. Gomez. Jeffries. Ocasio-Cortez. Jeffries. Titus. Jeffries.
Republican leader Kevin McCarthy has lost his bid again to be Speaker in the third round of voting. The first two rounds saw 19 defections. There were 19 again, and they were joined by another Republican, making it 20 Republicans who opposed Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. The 20th vote was Byron Donalds, Republican of Florida, serving in his second term. Robert Costa of CBS tweeting out, "I'm hearing some of the hardliners are hoping a large enough group wants to adjourn, and most of them would support that as a means of having a conference meeting to hash things out. The question is, would some Democrats back a motion to adjourn?" And Kevin McCarthy has said he doesn't want to leave the floor. If they don't adjourn, it looks like the House is headed for an historic fourth round of voting for Speaker. Continue to watch our coverage here live on C-SPAN. Once again, on the opening day of the 118th Congress, no one has secured the votes to become the next Speaker of the House. 19 Republicans, along with Byron Donalds, making it 20, voted against Kevin McCarthy in the last round of voting. Congressman Donalds tweeting this out just moments ago. The reality is Representative Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the votes. I committed my support to him publicly and for 2 votes on the House floor. 218 is the number, and currently no one is there. Our conference needs to recess and huddle and find someone or work out the next steps, he wrote. He went on to say, but these continuous votes aren't working for anyone. When the dust settles, we will have a Republican speaker. Now is the time for a conference to debate and come to a consensus. In support for Kevin McCarthy, Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia tweeting out, Jim Jordan does not want to be Speaker, and nominated Kevin McCarthy on the House floor for Speaker and is voting for him every round. Jim Jordan wants to be chair of the Judiciary, but he can't because 19 Republicans, now 20 in the 3rd round of voting, are not supporting Jim Jordan by voting for McCarthy. We're waiting for the clerk to call the official tally of the 3rd round of voting, and then we will see what happens next. Do they adjourn, or does this go to a 4th ballot?